Як ми в кадрі? Як живі?
Почекайте, а ви хочете весь фільм показувати? Із звуком чи як?
Ну так. Просто звук, ну який сенс. Якщо ми будемо розказувати, то звук є сенс виключити, щоб просто як картинка була в цьому фільмі. Ну, фоном.
Фоном, щоб був фільм.
Просто,
Там великий файл?
Ні, але там же ж розповідають.
Так ці всі люди тут якраз сидять, ми ще раз це будемо розповідати. Тільки вже
Це одні ті самі люди, які тут.
Хай йде, це я потім розкажемо. Ми менше розкажемо.
Розумієте, воно повторює.
Да. Потім там уже...
Там воно всі не контент, а потім вже саме головне, ви акцентуєте ще.
Ну, на іншому акценту, там ти говориш, коли... Микола не буде то все розказувати. Рецепт, костюм. А коли приїжджає консул?
Скільки хвилин відео? Відео скільки хвилин?
Коли починати вимагати?
Після другого спікера.
Після
Добрий день, я вітаю.
Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joins us. My name is Olga Atamanova, and it's my pleasure to see everybody who joins us in Ukraine Media Center, Ukrinform. It's been 10 years of the war, and today is day 739 of the full-scale invasion of our homeland by Russian aggressor. And today we have invited you to talk about an important topic. We will be talking about the preservation of the cultural heritage during the war. We will be describing the experience and the example of the village of Moshny, which implemented a project called the Cultural Dimension of Moshny Village. So let me introduce our speakers today. Joining us are Maksym Plahotny, Executive Director of Incognita NGO, Mykola Yakymenko, Moshny Village Community Local Historian, Malenkov, Chairman of the Board of the Incognita NGO, and Andriy Yarvit, Technical Director of Incognita NGO. Good afternoon. So, Mr. Maksym, let's start with you. What is the project? What you were able to implement, please? It's the second year of the big war. The second year. Well, it's been more than 10 years. Well, but honestly, it's been 10 years. Well, basically, they continue destroying the cultural heritage all their life, whatever we create. And it's quite a pressing issue to preserve the cultural heritage. And the project that we've implemented now, called the Cultural Dimension of the Village of Moshny, it's been implemented by Ukraine Incognita NGO, financed under the program's MENA Rebuilding with the support of European Union, and there will be a special contest to support the Ukrainian IDPs and Ukrainian cultural sector. It's described in the agreement as charitable grant with the support of the International Charitable Foundation Trans Europe, Halles and Isolation and Mary Berlin. The essence of this issue is that there is a wonderful Ukrainian village of Moshny, which has a decent number of cultural heritage objects, and we've decided to digitalize this history to give it a new impetus, so to say, to let the community know how rich is their community. And today we are ready to report how we made it. So what's so interesting about the village of Moshny? Mr. Mykola can tell you more about that, technical issues of implementation and what's going to happen. Andriy and Roman will tell you about that. Mr. Mykola, so let's talk about the village itself. What is the goal of the project? Is to popularize the rural heritage of the small communities in Ukraine. Well, not even every big city can compete with the village of Moshny in terms of the number of unique objects of cultural heritage. They are really unique in Ukraine. I work as a director of the Central of Children's Art, and since 90s we were trying to get children involved in study of the cultural heritage. So one of our disciples won an international contest, and we've issued a book in publishing house Prosvita. Since the year 2000, we've established a touristic center in the village, and we've accepted more than 20,000 tourists. It's like in every business, when you start it, you know, it stops somewhere and you stop seeing the prospects of growth. But talking about the cultural heritage of Moshny, you know, it put the work on preservation of cultural heritage a couple of levels above, because we see the feedback from the inhabitants of Moshny with their attempts and their desire to help. So this information support given to us by this project, I hope it will help us to preserve those objects of cultural heritage that are in not so good condition. And I would like to thank all of the participants of this project for supporting the village to preserve their cultural heritage, to popularize that cultural heritage, and to use them for education of the children, of the youth, and to develop the touristic business. Thank you, Mr. Roman, Mr. Andriy. To what extent digitalization helps to achieve this goal today? To what extent is this tool effective in terms of used by the small communities? We understand that one of the important goals is not only to preserve the cultural heritage, but also to popularize this history for all of the Ukrainians, and not only Ukrainians. Well, you're absolutely right that digitalization lately, it gets more and more momentum, so to say, and with the help of three-dimensional digital models that are currently being found in the websites or in some digital platforms, people can see those 3D models with their own eyes without having physical opportunity to go to that village so far. Our models were created with the use of the phototrigonometry technology, the combination of land-based and aerial footage. So we were making about 2,000 pictures for one object, and we were getting a detailed textured 3D model. What's important also is that apart from the good visualization, you can look at the model from any angle, you can see all of the specific features of the buildings, of the structures. We've also got the drafts that will help us in work and in future works on revitalization or restoration. So it's basically a ready project documentation. We've fulfilled eight shootings, and we've created 8 digital models. All of them are in our website. It's open source. You can visit, you can scroll through the models, you can look at them from any angle, any side. So it's a full-fledged 3D tour, so to say. Thank you. We have a small video, so I suggest to take a look at it, and then we'll get back to our discussion. Ukraine Incognita presents cultural dimension of the village of Moshny. My name is Andriy Yarovy. I'm a technical director of Incognita NGO. And today we present our project in the village of Moshny in Cherkasy region. Our project is called Cultural Dimension of the Moshny Community. Right behind me is a prominent cultural heritage object, 3D model of which we were making, as well as 8 other objects in motion with the help of photogrammetry technology, using the aerial view shooting. We take all the photographs together and we get the 3D model, which will help in future restorations, creation of virtual tours, and preservation of this cultural heritage. the Church of Transfiguration. So we are in Moshny village, Cherkasy region. Back in 1918, the help of the local mansion was the Count Mykola Yakymenko. He was the adherent of idea of unity of the religions, and this is why he set a task for George Telechev, local architects from Odessa, to embody in the style the idea of unity of religions of the world. And Torricelli, having been born in Switzerland, was quite successful with this task. He united the elements of Hindu and Muslim temples with the classic Christian Gothics, and this is how we've got a unique pearl of our cultural heritage, the Transfiguration Church of Moshny, built in 1840, it was called in the same way as the previous church that was located here. It's a unique church in terms of its interior. The interior is very strict. There are no pictures on the walls, unlike in other Greek Catholic temples. So it's not a simple temple. It's not just a village temple. This is a temple where you can bring different prominent figures. Both Vorontsov and Shevchenko were visiting this church, as well as many other guests from Europe. The Museum of Taras Shevchenko. We are in the territory of the Museum of Taras Shevchenko in Moshny. Right in front of you is the building that was left authentic from the 19th century. This building was visited a number of times by Taras Shevchenko. Back then it was an inn. The reconstruction of this building as a museum was going on mostly outside. We reinforced the carcass and the walls and the struts on the roof. However, the roof itself was recreated just as it was looking like back in the 19th century. Greek school. Katerina Balashova was in charge of the education of the local population. At her cost, the pension of the noble youth was built. It was a pension where the young girls were getting humanitarian education. The Greek school where they mostly studied literature, history, languages. They were learning how to dance, to sing. And we can judge about the level of education by the fact that the teachers of music and dances were from St. Petersburg, Odessa, and the teachers from the best universities of the country were coming here to teach. The house of Dr. Hordetsky. Right behind me is the unique monument of wooden construction, so-called the Doctor's Building, the unique building remaining in Ukraine after the famous architect Vladislav Hordetsky. It entwined the carving of Ukrainian Renaissance and Scandinavian tradition. How did Hordetsky get to Moshny? He was a king hunter, and he was coming here to hunt to the mansion of the granddaughter of Count Vorontsov, Katerina Balashova. So when he came in 1892 for an umpteenth time, she ordered him to build a doctor's house together with other two buildings. The Church of the Holy Mary. There's yet another prominent building is Rome Catholic Cathedral, built in 1857 for local community because there were many Catholics living in Moshny and nearby villages. The construction was founded by the widow of Count Vorontsov, and you can see the mix of Neo-Italian style and Neo-Gothic, and it's a unique building in Ukraine. The Unique paintings on the walls were destroyed in a barbarian way in 1927. Unfortunately, now this building is hollow. However, it could be a very good example of preservation of cultural heritage. So, cultural dimension of community. This is where we measure the community in cultural dimensions. We teach the community to respect their cultural heritage and to use it. This local community has got a whole legacy of architectural monuments with a collection of architectural styles. No single village in Ukraine has this mix of styles in its architecture: neo-Gothic, neo-Tudor, neo-Roman style, modern, wooden house built by Vladislav Horodetsky, and Ukrainian wooden architecture and the straw roofs like the Museum of Taras Shevchenko. In fact, the only inn in Ukraine dating back to 19th century that is preserved. No single village in Ukraine has such a number of cultural heritage objects. So the project contemplates creation of stands, of website, research of the object itself, the creation of digital copies of the objects, 3D models that can be looked at online, and training of the community in approach to this cultural heritage, because it's the community, not someone else who's coming, but it's the community itself that is supposed to learn how to preserve those objects, how to work with them, and to preserve them for their children, their grandchildren, for the generations to come. In Moshny, we can see different objects in terms of the condition of their preservation and their value. We see different objects, such as Transfiguration Church, that was preserved perfectly and people maintain it. It's in good condition, but there are some objects that are not respected. They are broken, they are half ruined, and this is what happens all across Ukraine. You know, our cultural heritage in 70% of cases is either ruined or half ruined. I don't know why, but Ukrainian people either forgotten or they haven't learned how to preserve the cultural heritage left by the ancestors. So it should be a precedent for other communities in Ukraine to proceed with such projects, to pay attention to the cultural heritage that exists in Ukraine, but unfortunately, so far is not so well preserved or preserved properly. Using this example, we would want to draw attention of all of the Ukraine to the preservation of cultural heritage problem. Mr. Roman? Oh, may I add a couple more words? Yeah, in the video, we could see the moment of our shooting, and we were installing 3 first stands, so near every monument, near every building, there will be information stands installed with the blueprint of the building, description, all of the information, QR code to proceed to the website of Moshny. So a person can come up to a building, read that information, and apart from the stands that are installed outside, we've created a number of information banners that will be located in the places of concentration of people, like village council, school, house of culture, museum. We brought one of them to demonstrate to you as an example. So all the information is gathered here and presented in a pretty convenient way. Thank you, Mr. Andriy. Mr. Roman, to what extent such projects help to popularize our cultural heritage? Will it be the project that is ended within one community, or are you planning to scale it up? Well, talking about the help to understanding of one community and the majority of people who work with the cultural heritage and the people who are just curious, who are just interested in preservation of cultural heritage, I think that will be a case created for a village community. Such projects were implemented in big cities, in city communities, but talking about the rural communities, about the provinces, it was made for the first time. The project is supposed to unite all of the aspects of functioning and forecasting of future development of cultural heritage objects. That's the first thing. And secondly, this project demonstrates that the cultural heritage is, first of all, a material cultural heritage, which is a witness and evidence of previous epochs, what was left to us by our ancestors, what we are supposed to preserve. First of all, in Ukraine, we have such a situation, in our opinion, that the majority of the citizens and the society, the majority of the people, they think that cultural heritage is like folk songs, folk fairy tales, folk recipes, вышиванка, шаровары, and something else. In fact, yes, it is a cultural heritage, a non-material cultural heritage, but in the majority of cases in the world, first of all, the attention is paid to the material cultural heritage, because as soon as it disappears, the identification of ethos disappears as well. In fact, the culture is a specific phenomena that the war is fought for. So if we divide our cultural heritage like 50-50, not like we have all the material cultural heritage, like 80% of it is either ruined or half ruined, and nobody pays attention to it somehow, as if it's normal. Some might say it's a lot of money, but the rest just ignore it. The community is supposed to understand what is the heritage, what is the antiqueness, and what is the useless old things, because it's all mixed up in their heads, like, oh, that's something old, that's gonna fall apart and we build something new. But we're not gonna build something like a Transfiguration Church in Moshny. No one's gonna build anything like that. We're not gonna build a cathedral that was built in 1857, built in Neo-Roman style. The only one in Ukraine. We're not gonna build a new wooden building created by great architect Horodetsky. This is why we'll let the community understand what it is, and I hope that within those 4 months that we work with this community, many people will understand it and change their opinion about what they have in their village, what kind of treasure is there, and that treasure is not supposed to disappear, that the church does not disappear when the community disappears. Or, for example, Roman Catholic temple, it was during Soviet times transformed into a water tower or in a workshop of a kolkhoz, and that as Soviet Union collapsed and the community of Roman Catholics disappeared from that village, the majority of population of Moshny and Ukraine, they said, so the Poles are gone, why do we need it, who's gonna pray there? But such a cultural heritage object can get a new life during its revitalization. We see in Berezhany, in the castle, they've made a revitalization. They've adopted the venue for something else. They've created a huge exhibition of Oleg Shuplyak pictures, and it's famous all around Ukraine now. And the artist himself is famous all around Ukraine. The same thing can be done to the temple in Moshny. It hasn't been serving as a temple for a very long time. It's not operating as a temple for more than a century, but it's a beautiful building, and it's a ready-made cultural space, cultural venue for a village that can become another magnet for tourists. So, if we review this project as a case, other communities probably can do it by themselves. And talking about our future plans, we plan to fulfill similar projects at cost of grants, and now we have potential investors who are ready to provide the territory for implementation of such a project as cultural dimension of the community, but at private cost. Thank you very much. Mr. Mykola, I would like to ask you a question. What are your expectations from this project? What is it supposed to give to the community? Well, I was mentioning it. First of all, it's the education not only of children, but all of the locals. Secondly, we are living in a time when the cultural heritage is supposed to be used for prosperity of the community. We have pretty decent amount of tourists, you know, since the opening of Shevchenko Museum. The flow of tourists intensified like tenfold. But as Mr. Roman mentioned, such a number of tourist magnets does not exist in any single village of Ukraine. This is why I forecast that if we put them in order, so imagine the only museum of the concrete master Horodetsky, the wooden building, the only one remaining in Ukraine. It's unique, and on top of that, we have such a big business. We have a Riverwood recreation park, and hundreds of tourists come there from Kiev, and they need some cultural program as well. Not only like bathing in a swimming pool or sitting in a restaurant. So Moshny prospects in these terms are pretty serious. And the Center of Local History operated in our extracurricular institution. We've accepted thousands of tourists, both school children and people's deputies. So I hope this project really will bring us to another level, you know, will bring to another level the life of those cultural objects of our community. And to finalize it, I would like to say that within 4 months of implementation of the project, we've spent about 20 days making a photographic footage, and people were coming and asking what's going on, what's flying there, what are you shooting. So the community knows that there is an interest to the cultural heritage objects of their communities, so they already changed their opinion. There is a positive attitude by the heads of the community. They see that it can be used in favor of the community, not only for that generation which is currently aged 12 to 18, but for the older generations who understand that don't pull that log or that brick from the object of cultural heritage, because it can be of use to all of the community. And other results of our project are 10 stands, 10 information stands, 8 stands installed near every building, where every tourist who is traveling between Kiev and Cherkasy or Kiev and Kaliv may come and check out the information. They can proceed through the QR code and get all of the information about what's going on there. Also, we leave a website for the community, a website about the cultural heritage that they can populate, expand, and that's a bright example of a project when within a short period of time you can do some very specific work to make sure that the local cultural heritage objects start working for the community and in the community. Thank you very much. I hope your experience is going to inspire more communities all around Ukraine, and they will use the opportunities of their communities, and it will be of benefit to all of us as a nation, as Ukrainians. Thank you very much. I would like to thank our security and defense forces for this opportunity to have events like this. We continue working together for our victory. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes.